Profiting from lease extensions, of course, is a fantastic strategy, but it's a strategy where you have to tread with a little bit of caution right now. And let me share with you some tips on this particular strategy in 2025. Now, we're here filming for season 8 of Property Elevator, the show that's going to be on Amazon Prime very, very shortly later on this year. And one of the deals that was pitched to us was a deal that in other times would be one that I personally would have snapped up. It's a flat in London, and it's available on a short lease. There's about 45 or something years left on the lease, and basically it's been unsold on the market for the last 6 months, and no one's interested. And that's because owner-occupiers who are maybe looking for a flat in southwest London can't get a mortgage on it. Because generally it's very, very difficult to get a mortgage, or nearly impossible to get a mortgage, if there's less than 75 years left on the lease. So that's why, unless you're a cash buyer and willing to do all of that, it's very, very difficult to kind of put together. So normally what an investor would do is you'd buy the thing, you'd buy it on a short lease, you'd basically extend, agree with the freeholder to pay a fee to extend that lease, maybe do some refurb to it, and then sell it on. I just explained it like that for simplicity, but I wouldn't structure a deal like that when I do them. See, in London, of course, where you've got a lot of flats with short leases, what you've actually have to deal with, of course, is the stamp duty. You've got to buy a property, and you might end up paying 70, 80, even £100,000 in stamp duty or more, and then lease extension costs, and then by the time you've kind of flipped it on, there's not really much in it. So what we do is we look for vendors who've had the property on sale for a long, long time. They haven't succeeded in finding a buyer. So it's been on the market for at least 6 months. And then you go to a vendor and you negotiate a little bit of a deal with them, an option deal. So you say to them, look, I'm going to buy this property from you at this price at some point over the next year. So you've secured it with an option, often for £1, or as little money as you can put down. So that means you haven't had to pay any stamp duty. Then what you do is you negotiate with the freeholder and say, well, okay, listen, freeholder, how much do you want to extend this lease from 45 years up to 125 years? How much? And they might say a couple £100,000. So armed with all of that, then you sell the property. You put the property on the market, you may do some refurb to it. Sometimes you just sell it on as it is and let someone else do the refurb. But the idea is that when you find a buyer for that property, you back-to-back everything. So you find a buyer for the property. On the day of completion of the sale of that property to that buyer, you exercise the option to buy the property off the seller. You then finalize the lease extension, which you've already pre-negotiated with the freeholder. So you do that all on the same day, and then you sell it to the ongoing buyer. And that allows you to do the whole transaction, putting in very little of your own money and not having to bother about having stamp duty in the meantime. And this is a fantastic strategy that works in spades. The problem with doing this in 2025 is that the big spanner in the works is the government. The government are about to fundamentally change the way leasehold property is run, and also the value of marriage value for when you have a short lease. I mean, at the moment, as the lease ticks down and gets shorter and shorter, it's as though the lease is worth less and more of that value goes back to the freeholder with each year that passes. Now, the government is talking about eradicating that. So in this deal that we looked at on Property Elevator, the freeholder was charging £195,000 to extend the lease from 45 years up to something like 125. Now, the government is talking about doing away with all those rules. Now, you know, the way Labour are and the way the policies are very much lefty and all of that, it's likely that they will implement policies which will basically rob freeholders of their value. So here's the thing. In 2025 right now, we are in a little bit of limbo land when we're doing short lease deals because of this uncertainty. Now, of course, these new legislation they get readings in House of Commons, and then it goes up to the Lords for amendments, and then finally it gets drafted into legislation and enacted, but all that takes time. So this one area where the Tories had some ideas on leasehold reform, they implemented that on the last day that they were in power. Now Labour have ripped that up and said they want to do something else. So all this uncertainty means that it's very, very difficult to come up with an effective strategy for short leases with this uncertainty in play. So in this particular deal, if we had structured it in exactly the way that I've just outlined in this video, what we would have had to put up is basically the risk of our time and effort and perhaps some legal fees and incidental fees, but all that time and effort we'd have to put in, not knowing if the whole leasehold rules just change overnight. And that's the big risk in doing short lease deals in 2025. Until the government clarifies exactly what the position is. Once we know where the cards fall, we can then implement whatever strategies we like. So that's the uncertainty for doing short lease deals right now. I would kind of, you may be putting some time and effort into them, but you don't know how the cards are going to fall. So that's it for this video. Obviously, if you like, make sure you subscribe, follow us for more. I'll be keeping you updated. And when Series 8 of Property Elevator goes live, you'll be able to watch it here on this YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon for a lot more. The Baker Street Property Meet is the UK's largest and #1 property investors networking event. The property market is going through monumental change right now, and at Baker Street Property Meet we aim to keep you up to date with the latest tips and tricks and insider tactics to help you keep on top of your property investing game and succeed in these troubled economic times. The Baker Street Property Meet is fundamentally about networking, because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And at Baker Street we aim to connect you with the people to make your property journey a monumental success. There's no better place to be to further your property investment journey than the Baker Street Property Meet. So make sure you're here, you're connecting with myself and Andrew Roberts, our expert guest speakers, and 300 passionate property people each and every month. See you at the next meet. Get your spot at bakerstreetpropertymeet.com.